allowed.
Yes.
Okay.
We're just getting.
Yeah, no problem.
Benaifer is also actually, she joined from her daughter, she said. So that's what. Clear, like audible, no? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Avinash?
So
Yes.
should I mute it?
Yeah, maybe around, you can be around, keeping it on for a while.
Okay, so I'll mute and I'll go off the video.
Yeah, you can.
But it'll be on. Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep the video.
Okay, I'll come back in about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
If there is anything, I'll give you a call.
Sure.
Somnath sir, you can start.
Yeah, maybe around, you can be around, keeping it on for a while.
Am I audible?
And I'll go off the video.
Yeah, you can
But it'll be on.
give a message to Dr. Ketsi.
I'll come back in about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. If there's anything, I'll give you a call. It's going later.
Somnath sir.
Yeah, Archana madam here.
Somnath sir, you can start. You can hear me, Somnath sir?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can start.
Yeah, then I'll have to message. You'll be messaging in the link, right? Yeah, in the group, correct?
I have sent the link.
Great. And I'll just ask Dr. Ketsi Chawda to come back.
Somnath sir.
Yeah, Archana madam here.
You can hear me, Somnath sir?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
You can start.
Yeah, we'll start in a while. We'll start. I'm just calling Dr. Ketsi. Yeah, in the group, correct?
Send the link.
Great. And I'll just ask Dr. Ketsi Chawda to come back.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah, the messages are somehow going. Yeah. So I think we can. In a while, we'll start. I'm just calling Dr. Ketsi.
How many people have got on as yet?
At least we are here. Yeah, Benaifer is also here.
No, I'm saying how many people who had registered have got on.
Yeah.
Hey, hello, can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, great.
Those who will be registering, they will come through Zoom as well as YouTube.
As well
So
as
it will be, yeah. So it be there is I guess more than 1,000 people who have registered.
Good Lord. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank to all three of you. I must start with a vote of thanks. Yeah. So I guess I can go live, I think. Yes, Archana madam, I can start, right?
Yes, Somnath sir.
Yeah, thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. Zoom link, I guess, is not shared in group, ma'am.
Hello.
Archana madam, I can go live, I think. I think Zoom link is not shared in group. That's the message I'm getting.
Yes, Somnath sir, please start.
Yeah, thank you, Lord. Okay, I'll begin. So, good morning, everybody. On behalf of Parle Tilak Vidyalaya Association's M.L.Dahanukar College of Commerce, I, Mr. Somnath Ramendra Deshmukh, Assistant Professor from the Department of English, heartily welcome you all to this national webinar on Rejuvenating Mind, organized by Internal Quality Assurance Cell that is IQAC, and Association of Mindfulness and Interfaith Dialogue, that is AMID. PTVS M.L.Dahanukar College of Commerce has been at the forefront in organizing webinars on various crucial themes from the perspective of learners from all walks of life. The present webinar on rejuvenating mind is one such in the series. We as organizing team are immensely overwhelmed with the huge response that we have received this time as well from the participants across the country. Though the pandemic of the COVID-19 has brought a kind of screeching halt to all our activities, it was heartening to witness the enthusiasm of the learners, educationists, and industry personnels whose association have helped to keep our morale high. Talking about today's webinar, I recall John Milton's celebrated lines from Paradise Lost, where he rightly said the mind is itself own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. So that is what we are here to deliberate on, these very nature of mind and its orientation, especially in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Nonetheless, many have already seen mental health issues as an existing pandemic, which was not getting the attention it deserved before the pandemic engulfed us. The prime objective of this webinar is to create that awareness regarding various mental health issues and mechanisms to cope with those in order to promote overall well-being. In our endeavor to attain to these goals, I must say that our beloved principal, Dr. Jnaneshwar Doke, has been constantly guiding us and has been a great source of inspiration in our organizing such intellectually stimulating events with issues of immense social relevance. Unfortunately, our principal sir got caught up with something, could not join us due to some last moment exigencies. He has expressed his gratitude to all the esteemed speakers, all three of you, and also he extended his thankfulness to the participants for registering and joining, he has sent his hearty good wishes to all of us. Thank you very much, sir, for your encouragement and guidance. And now I call upon my friend and colleague, Mr. Shudun Athale, to introduce our esteemed speaker for the day, first speaker for the day, Dr. K.C. Chawda.
Okay, thank you.
Shudun, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sumna sir. Dear friends, as you all know that we have the terrific trio, the three great persons from the psychology or clinical psychology and psychological therapy field. So let's begin with the first speaker of the day. We have with us today Dr. K.C. Chawda, who is a veteran psychiatrist with a vast experience of more than 35 years in the field. He is a former president of the Bombay Psychiatric Society. He has been a consultant at the PD Hinduja National, Hinduja Healthcare, and at Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital. Child psychology being his area of interest, Dr. Chawda had been the chairperson of the task force of the Indian Psychiatric Society, IPS, dealing with school psychiatry and counseling. He was also panel member of the task force of the IPS dealing with ethical boundaries between a doctor and a client, which is nowadays being taken up as the guideline by IMC at the Indian Healthcare Services. Dr. Chawda also worked as a chairperson of the task force of the IPS dealing with the LGBTQ community. Notably, the task force could accomplish to issue a position statement that was quoted in the landmark judgment by 2 of the 5 learned judges when they repealed Section 377. He was also a panel member of the IPS task force that laid down clinical guidelines for the treatment of autism spectrum disorders. He had been a part of the first panel of the Maharashtra government that had laid down concessions for learning disabilities in Mumbai. He is also on the advisory board of the mental health panel of project of Mumbai 2, a BMC and state government enterprise dealing with psychological problems of the MMR region. Currently, he is handling the responsibility of as a chairperson of the IPS task force dealing with college psychiatry. So without further ado, I invite Dr. K.C. Chawda to address our participants on the topic of an overview of mental health issues. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. A special thank you to Somnath. He's been very, very sweet and following up with me. I've given him a little bit of trouble in getting the dates, but finally we are here.
Thank you, sir.
My two colleagues are going to be talking a little more specific stuff related to mental health. Avinash will be talking something that we are seeing happening within our days when we are all locked down, which is a very sad indictment of our society. And Benaifer will be talking about how you can build up resilience and things like that, which I think is so very important in today's generation. I'm going to be giving an overview of the mental health problems that we are seeing with specific emphasis to your age group, which is the young teenage and the young adult age group. We are all, in a sense, groping in the dark. None of us have ever experienced something like this, where we are stuck indoors, where we are seeing people on the news who are infected, where we're hearing of healthcare workers and other assistants to the government being pelted with stones and being forced to run, even though they are doing something that will actually help humanity and prevent what is a horrible situation today that is happening in our cities. We are stuck indoors. We are not allowed to go out as far as possible, even though now the lockdowns are being eased. Our economy obviously is affected. We've seen horrendous photographs and heard terrible stories about people who have been attempting to go home in their cities and in their villages far away from the place of work. It's not a very easy situation to be with. Given that anyway, 1 in about 4 or 5 people is going to have some kind of psychiatric illness sometime in their lives, one would expect that this is just going to increase in the near future. One would expect that the incidence of depression and anxiety and OCD, the incidence of addictions, the old person who's feeling bereft and alone, the young person who's all set to go abroad in order to get to do a postgrad over there, and he's got his scholarships and now suddenly he can't go abroad. The mums and the dads who are trying so desperately to make a living, and then they find that the economy is affected and maybe they've been asked to take a cut in pay. All of these are going to certainly impact on all of us. So if I quickly go through the age groups, because a lot of you will be staying in joint families where you'll have grandfather, you might have a sibling, you will have parents who may or may not be working. You might have your friends in a similar boat and you're stuck and you can't go out. Of course, now it's easing, but we still have to be very careful. All of this is going to impact on us. Considering the economy is probably now one of the most important issues, because we are finding a lot of issues related to the fact that people are not earning enough, or that there's been a lot of job losses, or that you've been asked to work only thrice a week from home, or that you've been asked to cut down the number of hours that you work, so automatically pay becomes less. It's going to affect all of us. I have clients where maybe the man flies for a particular airline. The wife is an air hostess in that same airline. No pay since 3 months, and they don't know whether the job is still going to be there. They've used to a good standard of living. They were paying off EMIs, and suddenly the EMIs seem to be majorly problematic for them. You have people who may be asked to work online. If you're lucky, maybe only one of you is working online. What happens if there are 2 of you working online? You need a little bit of quietness. You need a little bit of professional time versus personal time. And suddenly all of that merges at home. Most of the ladies look after the house and the kitchen. And some of them also work. A lot of them work. Now, suddenly they have to look after their professional aspects. And they also are in charge of looking after the groceries and dealing with the cooking. And maybe if you have an older person at home, you have to deal with that. And that becomes a little more problematic because you have an issue related to the fact that, you had a caretaker coming home and now the caretaker can't come home because transport is not available, so that all of the burden, in a sense, falls on to the parents in the house. And it's not nice for the old man who's also used to his own privacy, old man or old woman, and who likes to go down in the evening, go to the park, talk about the good old days with his friends, and now suddenly he's stuck at home. Your age group, a lot of you, some of you have just wanted to finish off with your exams. Some of you might have wanted to go abroad and do a postgrad. Some of you are stuck because your online classes certainly cannot take the role of actual face-to-face. It affects a lot of you, makes you sad, makes you depressed. A lot of you don't sleep. A lot of you who might have been taking access to, smoking or alcohol actually have increased this. A lot of you want to go out and meet your friends, and your parents have said absolutely not, and you chaff at the reins, but you can't help it because that is one of the things that we have to do. The only thing I can say over here is that we are all in the same boat. So it's not that you have been singled out in any way. It's not that you are the one who has to face it when everybody doesn't. I have a very dear friend whose daughter has just finished her graduation, was supposed to go abroad, everything done, scholarships available, no international flights. She doesn't know whether it's going to be valid the next year. And no way is her father going to allow her to go this year. Life is in a limbo. We still have to survive it. We still have to cope with it. We still have to accept that at least we are alive. Think of very young kids. They used to maybe meeting up with their friends, going for little birthday parties, playing down in the garden. All of that suddenly stops, and they don't understand what really social distancing is all about. Schools will be starting soon. Colleges might start soon. We don't know what the spike of the corona is going to show in the near future. So all of these are going to impinge on our psyche. Now, like I've said, research has shown that about 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 person is anyway going to have some kind of psychiatric problem. A lot of us are already seeking help. There are a huge number of kids who come to me, a huge number of adults who come to me, who are already taking help for something or the other. But there are lots of people who are kind of on the brink, on the border. They have problems, but they've been able to cope. And now suddenly the equilibrium that they have been in is no longer valid. Suddenly things which one would have never even thought about become so very important in your life. It's then not surprising that you'll end up having issues related to sadness, depression, anxiety. You can't sleep, you eat too much, you eat too little, your routine doesn't work, you're constantly scared. All of these issues we are seeing, my colleagues and I are seeing, they have increased recently. There are things that we need to do in order to gain control over ourselves. As a general rule, it's a good idea to stay in some kind of a routine. It is almost imperative to include physical activity in your routine. Even though you may not have to get up at 6 in the morning in order to go to college or go to the gym if you guys were used to that. And hence you tend to sleep very late and watch Netflix till late at night and then wake up at about 10, 11, 12. That's really not a good idea. It's a good idea to get into a routine. It's a good idea to accept that everybody will have chores. It's not fair to the lady of the house that she has to do everything, or the man of the house that he has to do everything. Everybody needs to do something or the other. If you have an older grandparent at home, incorporate that grandparent in your life. Give him something to do. Make him feel that he's also a useful member. Even though he might be slower than you would be, and maybe he'd take 2 hours to do what you would finish in 1, we need to give them the respect. We need to make them feel that they are an important member in society. Now, I'm working also with a lot of NGOs which are doing things in addition to mental health. They're doing things in terms of, at that time, for migrants and providing meals and things like that. And I'm thrilled that there were so many youngsters who were part of our platform. So many youngsters who did what they had to do in order to make a difference to our country. So many youngsters who were scared of what they were scared of the pandemic, but that did not prevent them from going ahead and doing what they felt they had to do as a duty. And believe you me, that is what will make a difference to our lives. Supposing you have somebody in your building who's all alone, an old person, or even a young person, who was used to maybe having his family coming in and they were just about a couple of, 25, 30 minutes away, and now they can't travel because of the restrictions. They're all alone. I'm certainly not saying you have to go and talk to them every day, but I'm saying if once in a while you just let them know that you are thinking of them, that you are available, it'll make all the difference in the world. Eventually, we have to learn something, that we are all interconnected. We have to learn that we cannot exist in a in a little cocoon in ourselves. We have to learn that if we give positivity to others, which is probably the most important thing that we should go home with today, if we give positivity to others, if we are thankful for all the privileges we get, somehow our mental state improves. But yes, if you feel that you're toppling over, if you feel you're getting very aggressive, if you find yourself very anxious, if you find yourself crying, if you feel that you're getting very depressed and withdrawn and sad and you can't take the pressures, please seek the help of a mental health professional. Whether it's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you need to seek the help of one. It is nice to talk to friends and it is nice to talk to family, but go seek professional help. That is the magic mantra. That is something that you must follow. Nobody in the least is saying that they are absolute, that they're magicians and they will always make a difference. But by and large, they do make a difference. By and large, the professionalism which they will bring into whatever be your issues will make you look at life in a slightly different fashion and will make life easier for everybody at home. I've been asked to talk for about between 10 and 15 minutes. So I'm going to wind up over here. We are now going to have Dr. Avinash and then Ms. Benaifer talking. And then, of course, whatever be the questions. So let us also go with the idea that let's not get paranoid about the pandemic. Sometimes the kind of stuff that we see on television, it makes you feel that there'll be a knock at the door and the virus will come strutting in and grab you and you're going to die. That's really not going to happen. We have to realize that we have to take precautions. We have to realize that we cannot behave like little idiots and do things without a mask and not take care of sanitization and get into crowds where there may be a containment zone. That is being stupid and that is being risky. But we also don't have to go the other way and do nothing at all because we are just so paranoid and frightened that we are going to get ill. Somehow a balance has to be attained. Over to you, sir. Somnath?
Yeah, I guess there was some, I needed to unmute myself. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. K.C. Chowda, for your presence and insights on the issues that you have, especially keeping in view the present situation of COVID-19. I guess I'll have to talk to a little more on the stuff that you've elaborated. We'll come back to you during the question answer session. And now I'll call upon my colleague again, Mr. Shudham Athale, to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Avinash D'Souza.
Yes, thank you, sir. So friends, another speaker for today is Dr. Avinash D'Souza. Dr. Avinash D'Souza is an acclaimed consultant psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and a consultant school psychiatrist. He is one of the few psychiatrists who, in addition to having a psychiatry degree, has a master's in counseling, psychotherapy, an MPhil in applied psychology, and an MBA in human resource development. He has his consulting rooms in Santa Cruz West, Mumbai. He is also a research associate at the Department of Psychiatry, Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Medical College, Mumbai. Dr. Avinash D'Souza is also the founder trustee of D'Souza Foundation, a trust that works in the area of mental health awareness across all sectors. He is an associate professor and secretary at the International Institute of Organizational Psychological Medicine, an organization that works in the field of organizational psychological medicine across 7 countries. He is also an international faculty for UNESCO chair in bioethics, working in over 8 countries for the same. Dr. D'Souza works with 10 mainstream and special schools in Mumbai as a visiting school psychiatrist, counselor, and school mental health expert. He is also a visiting faculty and professor at various teacher training courses across Mumbai and at various psychotherapy training programs across India. He is an ardent researcher who has over 650 publications in many reputed national and international journals and is the author of 10 books in the area of mental health. He has been awarded a doctorate in clinical psychology from the University of Hertfordshire, UK in the year 2011. To put it in a nutshell, he is one of the stalwarts in the field of clinical psychiatry. I now request Dr. Avinash D'Souza to deliver his session on violence and abuse during COVID-19 and coping mechanisms. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Dr. Avinash D'Souza.
Yes, good morning and nearly good afternoon in 5 minutes. So, the thing is, my topic is violence and abuse during the pandemic and during this entire period. While we were all talking about families being able to spend time together and families being able to remain together, what has happened is that there has been a huge surge in reports of all forms of violence in the house. There has been a huge surge of reports of abuse, spouse abuse, child abuse, multiple other forms of abuse that have happened during this lockdown. In fact, helplines for domestic violence have reported a 30-40% increase in calls that have happened during this lockdown period. And the reason I am saying this is because I work with an NGO called Sneha in Dharavi that deals with victims of domestic violence, and they have reported the same to me. Now, families that were together in um, a house are known to have certain issues because they are not used to seeing each other probably 24 hours. So it does happen that a lack of space, a lack of uh, I would say, privacy, a lack of freedom to be free can sometimes curb on personal space and affect the family. We've had instances of husbands and wives who have been in interpersonal turmoil, which has worsened during this lockdown period. There has been episodes of domestic violence. There has been an increase in alcohol consumption by the husband, getting violent post alcohol consumption. There has been an increase in the spouse and the husband fighting with each other. So, verbal abuse has increased. There has been a lot of verbal spats that have happened. There has been pushing, shoving, hitting, throwing things which have happened between couples. And many couples have realized in this lockdown period that we can't stay with each other under one roof. Though they are married, they want to remain in the marriage. They do not want to leave each other, but they've realized that, oh, we cannot bear each other for 24 hours. So, when we were working earlier, both of us were out of the house most of the day. We had our friends and our office groups and our personal groups with whom we were busy for most of the day. We came home probably for just an hour. And when we came home for this 1 hour, what has happened is that we have been uh, sort of fine because we had to bear each other only for a short time. But now the fact that we had to stay with each other 24 hours, it has led to increased interactions. It has led to nagging. It has led to taunting. It has led to multiple things, and that has led to violence. There has also been an increase in the number of family members who've been at home, and that has also led to multiple opinions flying, multiple viewpoints flying, teenagers losing their privacy, and therefore teenagers have become aggressive. There have also been instances where older people have been treated badly by younger people, leading to an increase in instances of elder abuse being reported during this pandemic. And there have been instances where families have decided to stay separately during the lockdown, primarily so that they don't fight. So separation in the form of staying separately so that they don't fight is something which has come up during this pandemic, and it's something which was not seen earlier. Sadly, a few instances of rape have also happened. Sadly, there have been cases of child sexual abuse that have also happened, probably because people have assumed that they can get away with these hideous acts during the lockdown because the police have been busy fighting COVID and multiple other things, and therefore has not been much investigation into this if they probably get caught. But that's not the case. The police have been even on these cases, and they've been working towards this even during the lockdown, which we appreciate them for. But there have been these kind of crimes which have happened. There has also been reports of couples where one partner has reported the other partner trying to force himself sexually on her, because this has happened because of certain frustrations that have probably come up during the lockdown. Violence and aggression can be treated medically. It can be treated through some amount of counseling as well, but you need a combination of medication and therapy to work on that. Husbands and wives have sought counseling probably because both of them have been available for therapy during this lockdown. So many of times they have said that we both would like to initiate marriage counseling right now because we are free, and we would like to have as many sessions as possible during this period so that we are together. And even if we are working at home, we are both at home. What has happened is the lockdown has not ended. It has resulted in couples working from home. So again, there is a threefold trio. There is online schooling happening, and both members of the family are working from home. And when this working from home happens, there is again a clash of timings, a clash of responsibilities, improper distribution of work at home, and this has resulted in multiple people having to sort of fight and squabble over I will do this and I will do that, and that has also led to aggression in the household. On the other side, I also want to say the COVID pandemic and the lockdown has not been only violence and abuse. I've had number of teenagers who phoned me and told me that for the first time we've been able to sit down and speak to our parents at length because they've been available at home, and we've been able to sort out around 70 to 80% of our issues, which is phenomenal. For the first time, I've had couples who've said that we've had nothing to do, so we've been able to sit and speak and sort out our issues, which again is phenomenal. There have also been instances where the entire family has been able to sort out their issues because the entire family has sat together and spoken for hours, and they have told each other what they expect from one another, what they want, what they don't want, and this has led to a better understanding of themselves and others. So the lockdown has not all been negative, it's also been positive. There have been families that have cooked together, eaten together, done a lot of activities together within the house, cleaned the whole house together. So multiple things have happened. On a positive note, there have been even some reductions. I mean, there have been the end to certain extramarital affairs during the lockdown. There have been the start of some extramarital affairs in the lockdown, which is not totally positive, but it's happened. There has also been frustration because people in relationships have not been able to meet, and that aggression has also come up. But the important factor is people have decided to come out and seek help. Help has been available, whether it is paid or free. Dr. Chawda, myself, we ourselves have been on 5 or 6 helplines which are free, and we've had a large number of people that have come out and sought help. All I want to say is that this is a neglected issue. Domestic violence and all forms of aggression that have increased during the pandemic has never been addressed. Therefore, I was happy to speak on this. I will now hand over back to Mr. Somnath, and then I think we can take it further from there. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for addressing this, this pertinent issue. It's truly, it requires a lot of address, and the way you have covered it. Definitely, we'll come back to you also during our question answer session. I am requesting my colleague and friend, Mr. Shudhan Athale, to introduce Ms. Dahanukar now.
Okay, thank you, sir. So in the third session or the third stage of this first webinar on psychology of a college, we have speaker Ms. Dahanukar, who is a well-known psychologist with more than 27 years of experience in this field. She has done her MSW from Tata Institute of Social Sciences and MSc in Psychology from Madras University. She is a psychological therapist in solution-focused brief therapy with adults, children, and family. Her forte is relationship counseling for couples and individuals struggling with depression and anxiety. She conducts workshops to spread mental health awareness at educational institutes and corporates. She is a consultant at Viacom 18 and Veer Mata Jizabai Technical Institute, Mumbai. Now I invite Madam Dahanukar to kindly address the webinar on staying solution focused and building resilience. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And hi, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be over here with you finally. And I'd like to start with apologizing because I am part of the reason why the program had got rescheduled. And Professor Somnath has been so caring and she has shown great concern. So thank you for your support, Professor Somnath. So last week, my dad developed this breathing issue, because of heart condition, and we had to admit him in the hospital. Now, as per protocol, the first thing that they do is they shove you into the COVID ward, the COVID isolation ward. And man, those 48 hours was so worrisome and full of anxiety. So guys, when I talk to you about handling anxiety, I truly know what I'm talking about. I totally get it. So my clinic shut down in March, 21st March, Parsi New Year to be exact. And there was a dip in the caseload in April. And then in May, when phone counseling started, my phone was just exploding with appointments because phone call after phone call was all about what do I do if I get infected or my loved ones get infected? What do I do if I die or my loved ones die? I mean, can we die? So there was this great surge in the anxiety that happened. But today, I addressed it with my clinical knowledge and my experience and all very textual and scientific. But today, boys and girls, as I share this screen space with you, I'm speaking from my heart because I truly understand what that nail-biting anxiety felt like. So when the Prime Minister announced the lockdown in March, we all thought, I remember talking to Dr. Avinash, and we all thought like, in a little while, it's going to get over. But then lockdown 1 went into lockdown 2. But human beings are very good at adapting. So we all moved our business online, classes online, practice online. And, we continued. But then lockdown 2 went into lockdown 3. And then it went into lockdown 4. And even today, as Dr. Chavda said, the end is very hazy. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. And now with the unlock 1, you see people going from the buses and they're jam-packed in the train because, face it, in India, we really don't have the luxury of social distancing. But the thing, as I said, is that we human beings are extremely good at adaptation. So we can't fly to the infinite skies like the birds. We can't run as fast as the beast or, rip the prey apart with their jaws and paws. But we have superior intelligence. And the superior intelligence helps us to adapt. But there is a but. Because of the superior intelligence, we also overthink. So worry enters our brain like one tiny little dot. And if you feed that anxiety and if you feed that worry, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and your mind is just going round and round in unnecessary circles. So last week I was flipping and I spoke to the doctor and I said, Doc, do we have to take any kind of medication? Does our family have to get tested? And he said, Benaifa, relax. I am working and facing hundreds of people with infection. How much testing will I do? And what medicine will I take? So every exposure does not mean you're going to get infected. So you relax. If there are any flu-like symptoms, then we will think about testing and symptomatic medication. And you just practice your social distancing, you practice your hygiene, and you will be fine. And that insight, just cut my circuit of thinking round and round. So students, I want you to think about your lowest low, when you felt really beaten and defeated and over and out. And then somebody came into your life and said something profoundly inspiring. And you crawled out of that dark hole and you said, yes, I'm back in the game. I want you to think about the time you failed an exam, a viva, some elocution competition, whatever. But you did not give up. And you went back and you learned your material and you rehearsed And you practiced and you practiced. You practiced as you were shaving and showering and pooping and driving. And you learned and delivered that perfect performance with your practice. And even after the performance was over or the exam was written, even in your sleep, you know, those lines just kept coming and your brain said, bus now, I don't need to remember. How did you do that? Because when you practice, the language of what you have learned, the script, just seeps into your bones. So I practice solution-focused brief therapy. Solution focus are not two empty words, but it is an attitude. In fact, the entire therapy is based on language because words really, really matter. Words are transformative. Words create magic. So just as you learned the language of your lessons and gave that perfect performance, with practice, you can make solution focus seep into your bones where every atom, every molecule, every fiber of your being becomes solution focused. So how does one practice solution focus? I mean, everybody's been talking about problems, okay? But I would like to talk to you a little bit about how does one practice, just like a little bird's eye view, how does one practice being solution focused? The most important thing which Dr. Chavda spoke about is the need for connectedness. He said, reach out and talk. Dr. D'Souza reiterated the same thing. And he talked about this wonderful example where 70% of the problem gets solved when the family sits together in a circle and just thrashes things out. So, in fact, my service is called Talking Heals because talking truly heals. So the first strategy that I would recommend is please express whatever is over here, you need to bring it over here. Okay, so you need to express, because if you keep something in your mind and you try to push it behind, it's going to keep coming back and haunting you like a nagging mother-in-law. This advice that people give, you know, ye kaan se suno, ye kaan se nikalo, is extremely stupid because dono kaan ke beech mein ek bheja hota hai, right? And the bheja is like a recorder, so it just absorbs everything and it keeps regurgitating the horrible past. So it's very important for you to talk and cry, a good solid cry, and get it out of your system. Think about a pressure cooker. Imagine a pressure cooker that does not have a valve, okay? So if that steam doesn't come out, okay, and there is the valve is jammed, what will happen? The liquid in the cooker will just boil, and the cooker will burst. And not only will the cooker destroy itself, but it will even destroy the people around it. So when you shut up for a long time and you suppress something, you are bound to explode. So either you explode and, you know, the angry words are leaving your mouth and your brain is saying, shut up, shut up, shut up, but you can't, there is no recall button, you know, to take those hurtful words back. So either you explode or you implode from within, where you just crack, you fall through the cracks and you hurt yourself. The second point, which I want to reiterate, is that words matter. Albert Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. You have to think different. And therefore, the goals that we set for ourselves, the language that we use for ourselves needs to be positive. So Mother Teresa would never say, I'm anti-war. She would say, I'm pro-peace. You see the difference? And even in our real lives, we know exactly what we want and we are very focused in our goals. So when you sit in a cab, you won't say, Bhaiya, humko ville pale bhi jana hai. You say, church gate lo. When you go to a restaurant, you won't say, I don't want palak paneer. You say, I want mutton biryani. But in therapy, it is the exact opposite. People sit in front of us and when I say, so what is the best hope of our talking? What do you want from me? They will say, I don't want to lose my temper. I don't want to be depressed. So then I have to tweak the question and I have to say, what would you rather have instead? And they will say, oh, I want to be calm or I want to be happy. So language really matters and it needs to be framed positively. The third perspective, which I want you to consider, just think about it. Problems, solutions often do not have a connection. And I'll tell you why. Think about the present situation. A across the world, there is a pandemic, and the scientists and the researchers are working 24/7, racing to find a cure and a vaccine. Very little research is going on in finding out why or how is the virus happening. So the world's attention is focused on solution. I get, my forte is couples counseling. And very often I get couples who sit on the chair in front of me and I say, what is the best hope of our talking? And I get them saying two totally different goals. So the husband will say, I want to divorce. The wife will say, I want to stay in the marriage. Now, I cannot let myself panic and say, oh my God, you know, their goals are absolutely north and south. So I have to find some commonality, you know, to join them. So I would probably turn to the man and say, so mister, what difference would it make to you if you did get divorced? And he would say, oh, I would get freedom from her kid. And I said, and what difference would that freedom make to you? And he would say, I would be happy, happy. Then I would turn to the wife and say, so Mrs., what difference would it make to you if you stay in the marriage? And she said, oh, I would feel secure and I'll feel supported and I'll feel loved. And I said, supposing whether or not you're divorced or married, you still found yourself feeling secured and supported, what difference will it make to you? And she said, that would make me happy. So now I have a common outcome. So the goal may be completely north-south disparate, okay? But the commonality of the outcome, happiness, is the same. So now my questioning would be, supposing whether or not you are married or divorced, I don't know where the outcome or which direction, you know, the needle will point. Supposing in your present state, you somehow found your happiness and your freedom, would you be pleased? And tell me, in the present situation, even now, is there a tiny little window period where you still find your joy and your togetherness with each other? And they will say things like, yeah, I mean, when we have our tea early in the morning, we enjoy each other's silence, you know, just sitting together. It's a nice feeling. What else do you like? Our children. We are very proud of our children. We are very proud of the beautiful babies we have made. And then I start building and I start broadening the vision of happiness. So we have to actually, it's like searching for a needle in a haystack, where we try to find the goodness, the essence of goodness and beauty and happiness that still exists in their marriage. The fourth point I want you to consider is that when we talk about solutions, it's not like contact lenses, you know, where one size fits all. What works for you may not work for me. So let me give you an example. Like Sir said, you know, I work in Rejuvenating College. It's an engineering college. So in April, one of the boys called me up and he said, you know, ma'am, I can't pay attention and I have to submit an assignment and I don't have any drive. I'm so demotivated. I just don't feel like studying. So let's call him Rahul, okay? That's not his real name, but let's call him Rahul. So I said, Rahul, tell me, in your everyday life, what is it that keeps you consistent with an activity? And he said, I like to exercise. I said, great. And what time do you exercise? He said, 5 in the evening. So I said, wow, in this April Katil Garmi, you're exercising. How come? And he said, because I want to build my body and girls are attracted to a toned body. Now that's my clue, girls. So I asked him, okay, so that means you are capable of discipline and you're capable of being consistent, which you just need to translate into the study area. He said, yeah, but you know, the phone distracts me a lot. So I said, how would you use the phone as your friend or a helper as versus a distraction? So he said, yeah, I can treat the phone like my EA, where the alarm rings and says, okay, now this is study time, break time. Now I remember that girl clue that he had given. So I said, yes, very good idea, Rahul. What if this secretary of yours or EO of yours is, you know, very hot and very sexy and she's wearing red lipstick and she's in a tight black skirt and she's saying, Rahul, come to me, come now. So he laughed and he said, ma'am, to main bhag bhag ke study karunga. And then, you know, we laughed and we forgot about this session. And a month later, he WhatsApped me and said, assignment submitted 3 days before deadline. Thank you. So this is the solution that worked for him. And I would like to end now with a small little reflective question for you guys. Okay, so listen to my question very carefully. It's an identity question, and all of us have got into this very reflective mode. On 31st December 2019, all of y'all made a wish for yourself, some New Year resolution, like I want to not procrastinate, or I want to lose weight, or I want to get along better, or whatever. So here's my question. Listen carefully. Suppose you woke up tomorrow and you found yourself as the very best version of you. What would you notice that would make you pleased? I repeat, suppose you woke up tomorrow and you found yourself as the very best version of you. What would you notice that would make you pleased? So think about it. And I now want you to further deep dive and think, what would the people around me, people close to me, notice about this best version of me? And the people close to you can be your friends, your family, your colleagues, even your pets, your dogs, your cats, because everything we do, our good mood, our bad mood, has a ripple effect on the people around us. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, life is all about the choices we make. Resilience is a choice. Solution focus is a choice. Staying happy is hard work and a choice. Make a good choice today. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Vinay. Thank you, Ms. Vinay. Really, it's been very focused discussion talking to you and listening to you. Yeah. So I'll come back to other details, and now we move forward to the question answer session. Yeah, so we have received a few questions. I hope we have a few. Yeah, we have some time at our disposal. And so I have got, this is the first question to Dr. Casey.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I'm, there's a question that we are aware that, people go in for taking medications for diabetes and blood pressure. And people are aware of the side effects of all those things. But in case of psychiatric medicines, there seems to be some kind of unwillingness. So one of them, there is some kind of fear also. One of them may be overdependence on drugs leading to habit formation. Could you throw some light on this?
Yes, I'd love to throw some light on this.
Yeah.
First of all, let's remember one thing. Dr. Google is not a doctor. Dr. Google is about 18 years old. We've been doctors since a longer time period. We have a little more knowledge than the Dr. Google does. Point number 2, supposing you were diabetic and you had to take some medication, you'd probably take it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Would you call yourself dependent on diabetes? No, you would not. Supposing you had a thyroid dysfunction and you were taking some medication, you would have to take the thyroid tablet before breakfast for the rest of your life. Would you say you're dependent on this thyroid medication? No, you're not. And you would never ask your doctor to stop it. Supposing you have a high blood pressure issue and you exercise and you do your salt restrictions and everything, but you still have a problem. And the doctor says you'll have to be on this medication because if you don't take it, then you might land up getting a stroke or you might land up getting a heart attack or something like that. Would we say I'm dependent on it? No, we're not. But somehow you have 1 tablet or 2 tablets given by a psychiatrist and it becomes, I'm dependent on it, I'm going to become a zombie, this is going to happen, that is going to happen, and that's all absolute nonsense. We have to remember that just like it would be stupid, supposing you had a fracture of your leg, you're not going to go to a physiotherapist, you're not going to do yoga. Just like that, if you have a situation in your brain which is necessary for you to visit, for which it is necessary for you to visit a psychiatrist, then, and it is necessary to take medication, please do so. I mean, at that time, to do yoga or to do meditation is absolutely nonsensical stuff and does not make sense in the least. So I'm going to say that yes, medication can have side effects, but the side effects are very carefully titrated. We must realize that supposing, for example, you're depressed and you can't sleep, I might give you something which keeps you more awake. If an antidepressant which keeps you more awake. If you are depressed and you're sleeping too much, I will give you an antidepressant which works as an antidepressant, but also keeps you more awake. So there is a careful titration that's done. It's done following certain logarithms. It's done based on research that has been tabulated through years, through randomized control trials and things like that. It is not something that we work out from the top of our head. The other small little thing I'd like to add to this is, everybody says, people say that you should not take it. And I ask them, who are these people? I don't know, but they say it. Who are these they? They don't know, but these people say it. If you don't know who these people are, if you don't know what they're talking about, if they are not doctors, if they have no idea as to what they're doing, then let's stop behaving like nitwits and let's follow the doctor's advice. I'm certainly not saying that every patient who has a problem needs medication, but I am saying that if a patient needs medication, then please take it and please follow the doctor's advice to the T.
Okay. Probably, yeah. But this also leads to the question of the resistance that people have, maybe because of the stigma that is around mental health, right?
Well, I think it's changing to a large extent. I think my colleagues and I are getting inundated with people, and especially now, we can't cope with the kind of people who are coming. Let's also realize that 20% of the population is going to have some kind of psychiatric disorder. If you're looking at sheer numbers, even in Mumbai, if you're looking at 13 million people, 20% of that is a lot of people. And we have very, very few psychiatrists, very few psychologists, very few psychiatric social health workers. So yes, there may be a stigmatization, but it's changed tremendously. People are coming out and talking about it. People are, discussing their issues. People are being quoted when they have problems. Celebrities are talking about the fact that they might have had issues, and so all of these things are happening. So the future in terms of destigmatization, I think, is very much on the anvil, and hopefully going to a psychiatrist will be as natural as going to a GP for a cold if there is an issue.
Okay. Fine, we take it forward. We're just receiving quite a few questions.
Yes, sir.
So I'll come back to you again. Here is a question for Ms. Binayfa. Yeah, a question. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I know there's a tendency, like obviously, like adults, children and teenagers are confronted with several challenges, and it's increasing day by day. So, the obvious one is their confusion. Sometimes they see when they see that they are taught something in the schools and colleges, and they see the contrary at home front, and it also develops a lot of anxieties and fears. So in such situation, how do they deal with the conflict? Yes.
Okay. So you're talking about a polarity of thought, that
Yes.
school mein ye sikhaya, college mein ye sikhaya, ghar pe kuch aur hai.
Yes.
Okay. And that happens in any case. I mean, in any thought process where you feel confused. But the sad part is that the brain is like a magnet, it just goes towards the negative voice. And we get into the zone of, what if, and what if is crazy because, all those combinations and permutations can drive you nuts. So I think you need to pick the thought which is the most helpful and go with it. Like Dr. Chavda said, log kehte hain कि medication is bad, but then you talk to a doctor and what the doctor says makes sense, and he has the authority and the competence, then you see merit in what works for you. So finally, you get to judge. So pick, and the brain is always giving you a positive voice and it is giving you a negative voice. But the choice is ours. Who do we pay attention to? I hope that makes sense.
Yes, indeed. That is what. So again, it's a matter of choice, as you're saying.
Absolutely. Life is all about the choices. Even when people say what to do, so helpless, so hopeless, even that is a choice. Not doing anything is also a choice.
Who else should be the person to say who have gone through a troubled time just
yeah.
Isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's definitely to experience. And so here is another question. I would pose that to Dr. Avinash. If he can, yeah.
Yes.
Do I have to switch off my video? Sorry, do you want me to switch off my video when others stop?
No, I would want you to be on. There's no problem. And so, Dr. Avinash, as you have been talking about, a lot of anxieties, a lot of reports that are coming up. So here, people staying at home in a state of being idle also has led to a lot of enormous anxiety, and people are taking recourse to social media and to keep themselves engaged. Here, this creates a kind of problematic situation, saga of travails in the social media. It's replete with all kinds of negative experiences. I'm not saying the entire of it, a great lot of it, as you said, and sometimes trolling. So how does one handle such situation, during a crisis like COVID pandemic?
Well, I think the first step is social media consumption. So
Yeah.
there is a huge amount of information on social media that needs to be handled and filtered very well. So you will have a lot of information coming in. What to see, what not to see is totally up to you. You cannot be all day on social media and keep posting on social media and look at social media for approval. So that is something which is important.
Yeah.
You will always have people who negatively comment on social media, but if you get affected by it, then you will end up getting into a bout of depression and anxiety and need psychiatric help. So what is important is that trolling will happen, but if you feel it is an abusive form of trolling, then you'll have to probably seek help from authorities and refer it to the cyber police, and they would probably look into it and get you relief from that. If you feel it is your friends or people who you know but don't like you who are trolling, you'll have to probably even personally take up the matter with them, speak to them, and try and sort that out. But what's most important is social media is made so that we stay connected. Social media is not a replacement for human life. Social media is not a replacement for human connectivity. So what is important is we have to limit our social media usage such that our lives are not ruled by social media and the likes and the amount of followers and the amount of friends, etc. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So again, definitely, we'll have to use our discretion, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And depending on the situation, if we have to approach the cyber authorities or on our personal front. So I guess this question, another question goes to you, talking about violence. Sometimes, obviously, there are stages of violence, uh, and sometimes it's in a much milder form. So, got a question in YouTube. Obviously, these questions that are coming. What is one is what if the partner is extremely adamant? If you can have anything to say, what if the partner is not ready, or if you as a person probably recognizing that there is a requirement of help, the person is not ready to take help, what should we?
Okay, now there are two things here. You will have a partner that may not want to seek help because he does not have insight that he needs help. Second, you may have a partner that actually has probably a psychiatric problem and therefore has no insight that he needs help. Now, in both cases, if the partner is not willing to seek help and he is rather being stubborn and not willing to listen, then probably I think a little help, even if needed by force, may have to be sought, because you obviously cannot let the other partner suffer in silence because of this partner's ignorance and not wanting to seek help. You could go and visit a psychiatrist, describe everything about the partner, try and first rule out whether he has a probable psychiatric problem or not. And if he's getting violent and not wanting to seek help, then you have no resort but to probably seek help from authorities who will take him and make sure that he seeks help.
Okay, fine, fine. In case of mild adamance, maybe a kind of dialogue may help.
Yes, in case of mild adamance, a kind of dialogue may help, even giving the partner a sort of a warning that you better come, taking him a little by force, sometimes may be the only way out in those cases.
Yeah. Dr. Casey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Some, it's a lot of now, as you're saying, a lot of awareness, and probably COVID-19 has brought in the awareness all the more. Still, a lot of stigma attached to mental health issues. How do we work towards destigmatizing? Like one such, our principal sir was gracious enough to, that, and many other colleges that have taken
Sure.
up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the only way is to keep talking about mental health, to keep telling people that it's perfectly okay for us to seek the help of a professional if there is a need. I still remember about 5 or 7 years ago when this young man, I mean, young meaning he must have been about 35, 40. He must have been about 40 and maybe 45. And he walked into my clinic very sheepishly. And he says, doc, my son who was who is a teenager, because I got married very young. My son is a teenager, and he came up to me and he says, "Dad, I think you need to seek the help of a psychiatrist because there's something wrong with you." And I've been listening to this guy. He came to our school and our college later, and he talked about mental health. Why don't you seek help? So I think the more we talk about it, the more open we are about it, the more we realize that it is not a sign of weakness. You're not weak if you seek help. You're not strong if you don't seek help. You haven't been brought up badly if you seek help. It's not that you're doing something wrong or you're not doing something wrong because of which you're depressed or anxious or things like that. Very often there is almost always there's an actual genetic thing. There are structural changes in the brain. We have neurotransmitter issues. We have channelopathies which are affected. The new imaging techniques show us a lot of things which we were not aware of even 10 years ago. So now we know that it is an actual disease of the brain structure. And it's like, supposing you were asthmatic and you suddenly got into an asthmatic fit. I don't think people would look at you and say, "How dare you have an asthmatic fit? What's wrong with you? Why are you breathless?" So just like that, if because you're depressed or anxious or have OCD or you have Alzheimer's or you have attention deficit disorder, it would be stupid for you to say, "How dare you be depressed?" I mean, it's dumb. So if you're depressed, seek the help for it. And that's the only way that people will become more and more accepting.
Yeah, and you said that though you suggest yoga and meditation, but not at a particular stage. Certain stages are there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, those are adjuncts, those are accessories. It's nice to exercise. It's a very useful thing. It's nice to do yoga and meditation. It's a very useful thing. But it's as silly as saying that if you have a fracture, just do yoga. Your fracture is not going to heal. So also, if you have a psychiatric illness, it is necessary to get an evaluation by a doctor and then figure out whether or not medication is necessary or therapy is the only thing that's indicated. And as an accessory, you can do everything else. But to expect that yoga is the only thing that is going to make a person who has a severe psychiatric disorder okay, I think is being stupidly optimistic.
Yeah. Even many yogic trainers themselves have said that meditation at certain stage is not advisable.
It's not a good idea. Oh, I have a lot of references from people who practice yoga and who are yogic teachers. So the people know the limitations of their problem.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I come back to you. Yeah, a question to Ms. Vinayfa. There's a question wherein, how do we reduce the impact when people talk to others as remarks and comments? They affect the person so much, greatly affected by people's conversation or saying things. It's not to the extent of sort of somebody coming and talking behind the back, maybe some tangential remarks. So how do you deal with that?
Like Kersi mentioned about medication, saying people say, and when he says they say that medication is bad. And when Kersi challenged it and said, but who? Give me a reference. There is no concrete reference. So this log kya kahenge, what will people say, is the compass that directs our behavior a lot, So, and then it just puts you into a spin because people just come, they plant a seed of an idea, they plant the worry, and then they have bounced, But then you are left grappling with the problem, and then you're thinking, what if, ye bhi ho sakta hai, wo bhi ho sakta hai, like I can die, I can get infected, will I have to go to the hospital? Let's take that for example. And then, you could, but then there are also those positive voices that you need to listen to, So there are, just treat people's dialogues as information. Do not attach value to it. And remember that the final judge and jury is you. So whatever is working for you, whatever is going right, do it more. Whatever is not working for you, whatever is freaking you out, please delete. It's literally as simple as that.
Sounds so simple, but
absolutely. So I'm talking about detachment with great ease. but it is something which we
Some
all
sort of
need
period of
to
time.
learn to, kind of push back and detach, because this is what keeps our sanity. Because otherwise we can just get sucked into that negativity whirlpool, okay, and we can fall through the cracks. So it takes a lot of dogged determination to keep your eye on the ball and say, I'm not going to fall. So you could be at the edge of hysteria, okay?
Yeah.
But if you are aware of it, okay, and you talk to the right people who make you feel good, people who are positive, not people who are helping you, who are pushing you through the edge, you can not only pull yourself back, but you can also pull yourself upward and be on the way which works for you.
Yeah, sometimes some people are not left with too many positive people, but that's a great solution. If we can then take recourse to some positive people or some positive books and stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I told you. That think of all your failures, think of your lowest low, okay, where people came and words are magic. They make all the difference. So either they can break you and shatter you. Think of your class. You'd had teachers who had an acidic tongue, okay, and they completely shattered your morale and they shattered your confidence. And then came along certain teachers who picked you up, who made you believe in yourself, who made you bask in the glory of your personhood. And you not only survived it, but you survived and thrived. So hang out with those people.
It calls to my mind my Professor Kumi Vivana. She is one such who had been such a guiding light to so
There
many.
you go. There you go.
Anjali Velan and some others.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Many others who I remember from VJTI where you been going.
Okay.
Yeah. So now that's a question, just on a small extension to it, wherein, it's a question to you asking that there are times when people copy everything that you do and gets ahead of you. How do you deal with such situation? You see that a person copying you, everything that you do, and gets ahead of you in life, be it in academics or in something, but through your process.
Because
Maybe.
you have to speak up. And jo bolta hai uska bikta hai. And I see this all the time in the corporate world. Okay. Not so much in the college world, but at least in the corporate world, I've seen, people who steal people's ideas. And in the brainstorming session, they said, I did this, I did that, instead of we did this as a team. So I think it is very important that you be heard. So I keep repeating myself like a broken record, that it is very important for you to market yourself. It is very important for you to take ownership of your creative idea. And if it is something is yours and if somebody is trying to steal your idea, you need to call their bluff and you need to confront them and say, hey, where did that come from? It's all about me. So if people are copying you, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. So if they're copying you in terms of your mannerisms and all, you should be flattered about it. But if it is detrimental to your progress, okay, if they are stealing the idea for your assignment and they are taking credit for it, or in a project, when you have a group project, your ideas, you gave it and they tell the professor, the reporting professor that, this was my idea, sir. I did all the work, and they are actually the shirkers, but they're very good at marketing themselves. You have to go out and call out their bluff, And it is very difficult for those who are introverted, those who are shy, those who are introverted. They're like, kharab lagega, how can I say it, So I think there is a big difference between being aggressive like, hey, kya re, you stole my idea, or you be assertive and you say, excuse me, this is not cool. Okay. So there is between the spectrum of aggressive and submissive is the midpoint assertive. And I think you need to be assertive.
Great. So the message of assertivity, being assertive for the person.
Yes.
Lovely. Yeah. So now there's a question for Dr. Avinash. Dr. Avinash.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes there are diagnoses which are not correct. In such cases, what is the recourse? And maybe going to some other doctor. Sometimes it's very difficult to leave the doctor and go to some other. But what do you suggest?
Well, I think there are umpteen number of times when you can always just have a second opinion to ascertain whether your treatment is on the right track or not. So and it's the patient's right, if the patient feels for some reason that the treatment is not progressing. My key question here to anyone is that it's not about diagnosis being wrong. It's about whether you're responding to the treatment. So if you're responding to the treatment, you're doing well, then I see no reason for you to seek a second opinion. But in case you feel that I am not responding to the treatment and not doing as well as I should, and the medicines are not suiting me, or the therapy isn't working out, and you want to seek a second opinion, you're free to seek a second opinion from somebody senior or of the same age of your doctor or anyone else who's recommended to you. That's absolutely fine and valid. And then it's your choice whether you would want to continue with the doctor who was treating you first, or you would want to go with the new doctor. That's totally the patient's choice.
Okay, okay. So we have a few more questions.
Yeah.
Now, this question I'd like to ask Dr. Casey. Yeah, Dr. Casey.
Yeah.
There is an element of anxiety among some who are undergoing treatment, medication. That they may pass on the illness to their children. So a lot of anxiety related to that. What is the probability of passing it to the next generation?
Well, I think it's different for different diseases. There are certainly studies which show that there is a greater than normal chance that if you have somebody in the family who has a psychiatric disorder, the chance that somebody else in the family will have a similar or an allied psychiatric disorder increases. So if, for example, you have a mother and a father who are both depressed, the chance that you will be depressed goes up quite exponentially. But there's really nothing you can do about it in terms of the genetics, but there is certainly a lot that you can do about it in terms of awareness. So if you are aware that the chances are higher in you, and that the chances, that if you have the knowledge that, mom and dad had this problem, so I might also have this problem, you work hard towards surrounding yourself with positivity, go seek the help of a psychiatrist or a psychologist the moment you start feeling that there is something untoward happening. Live a good routine life, and then if there's a necessity, seek medical help as and when there is an issue. So then you would be aware, and you would have taken all the precautions possible to ensure that your quality of life does not get affected, in spite of the fact that there is a bad genetic history and that the potential of your having a psychiatric illness has gone up exponentially because of that.
Good. So this awareness is very much what is required.
Important, yes. The other thing is, you don't only aware, you shouldn't only be aware, you need to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, otherwise you have people who come and they take your advice and they say, oh, great, and then they do nothing. Then they come back after 2 years in a much worse form. That is being silly.
I take this opportunity to also welcome our Vice Principal and IQC Coordinator, Chandana Chakravarti, Madam, who's just joined in. She's caught up in certain things. Thank you, Madam. And so a small question, I guess it's almost answered, but yet I would put it to Benefer. The question is, how do we put our past behind? Past is past. It's becoming so difficult to leave the past behind. How to put our past in past? As you said, be solution focused, focusing on present. Sometimes past just takes over. So is it that somewhere we have to give ourselves the leeway that, okay, the past may come over?
It's very interesting. I think this person is probably talking in the realm of hurt and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Okay. And no, the reason this is very fresh in my mind is because yesterday I was watching Oprah and she was talking about forgiveness. Okay. My take on forgiveness is extremely different. I truly believe that, we are not Mahatma Gandhi, we are not Jesus Christ, and it is really not necessary for us to forgive and forget in order to heal. And when I talk to my clients, and the first Saturday of every month, we have a support group. It's called Story Swappers. We sit in a circle and we swap whatever it is that has stressed us, which has inspired us, and we talk about it. So once we had a specific forgiveness theme, and everybody was talking. So one guy talked about being angry with his wife for not allowing custody access to the kids. Somebody else said, my business partner cheated on me and took away my client base and my money. Somebody said, I've been raped and I can't have sex anymore. Now, how does one forgive such a person? It is a gross injustice to the person who is suffering. How can you forget something so terrible? Perhaps you would remember it until your dying day. So I think this put the past behind us is all very okay in terms of your philosophy, but in practical terms, it is not possible. So instead of letting go, okay, which is not possible because you're stuck, okay, how about parking the past hurt over here and you walk around it, you bypass it, and you go ahead in life in a way that is good for you? So instead of letting go, the language that you need to tell yourself is let it be. Just let it be, because we still have to live with that person, that we are still in that zone sometimes. It's not possible to knock that person off. So you walk around that hurt without forgiving, forgetting, but moving ahead in a way that is good for you, because you have to move out of the past, focus on the here and now. In fact, that's the reason solution focus is so brief, because we don't go into the past, unlike the older methods of psychoanalysis and CBT, where they talk about when I was 5 years old and 10 years old. We don't focus about that. It is brief because we are in the here and now. We talk about what's bothering you now and what's the way forward, because the tomorrow is where I live. So I need to invest in the present and roll with it in the future.
The problem is that there are chances of its recurrence, those thoughts, recurrent thoughts. If it is
So listen, when I say solution focus, I do not mean problem phobic. So we certainly respect diagnosis. If a client wants to talk about a past trauma, I will certainly honor them and listen to their story. Okay. But it is not important to keep forming the connection. Like I told you in my talk, the problem and the solution may be completely disconnected.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would hear them. But then the minute I find some story of resilience and moving on,
Exactly.
I would click with that. So if a person talks about rape, I won't get into details about the rape, because they've gone through it with the police, they've gone through it with the forensic experts, they've gone through it with their loved ones. I don't want to repeat kaise hua, kya kiya. I don't want to get into that. I will say, how did you take the appointment and come to me? What is your survival story? How are you coping today? What is your strength? What are your resources? I will focus on that so that they get unstuck from the past and pull themselves into the present.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope it addresses the concern of the student. That was a student. Yeah. Here is a question for, I guess this could be the last question given our time constraint let's see, for Dr. Avinash, that there are certain clinical conditions like bipolar disorder. So some solutions or tips to reduce stress and depression during this period. Sometimes hypomania phase. So how do you deal with it?
Well, I think in the for bipolar disorder, particularly if you have a patient that is going into hypomania or mania, medication is the first choice of treatment. It's only after medication that through therapy you can help the patient diagnose his moods and look at change of moods, etc., and switch in mood and then seek help when needed. So one of the things I would tell the patient is that, or whoever is asking this question, is the moment you sense there's hypomania or there's a presence of bipolar disorder, please seek active help from a psychiatrist. And if the psychiatrist feels that yes, you would need psychoeducative therapy and you would need some kind of therapy to gauge your emotions or mood, then they would definitely refer you to a counselor.
Okay. So that's a stage wherein we definitely need to take recourse to medical help. It's going out of hand. Right?
Yeah.
So some time for Dr. Kirsi. The last question, Dr. Kirsi.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There are individuals sometimes, as you said, actually, somehow you've answered that get into self-medication, and there are times people taper off medicines themselves and only to realize that the progressions later on mental health. What is your advice to them?
Okay, so my advice to them is, the problem is everybody becomes a psychiatrist. I have had umpteen number of people saying, oh, I studied psychology, I did 6 months of psychology, I know it all. Please do realize that psychiatry is an extremely intensive thing. We do a postgrad after doing a basic 5.5-year course of MBBS. Then you do a postgrad and we continue studying. We are doing CMEs all the time, continuing medical education programs all the time. The amount and the explosion of knowledge in this particular field is incredible. We find it difficult to keep up with the times. So please do not self-medicate. Do not say that my mother had depression, she took this medication and she's fine, let me take it. That is not on. If I have said this medication should be for 6 weeks and then come back and meet me for a reevaluation, come back within a 6-week period. Don't come after 6 months saying, oh, I just let it continue. Do not stop it unless you take my explicit permission for the same. If there is a side effect, talk to me about the side effect and then we will see what to do. Do not increase it by thinking that, oh, I'm feeling so good with 1 tablet, let me increase it to 2 and I'll feel even better, because some of you even do that. The long and the short of it is, medicines are given at a particular time of the day, either before or after food, associated with things at a particular dosage for a particular reason which the doctor has thought of before suggesting it to you on a prescription. Yes, we cannot prophesy in advance and guarantee that it's going to make a change. These are not magic pills, so it will take about 10 to 15 days before the medicines even kick in, and then you start getting the beneficial effects that we are looking for. Bear with us in that time period. If there are hassles, talk to your doctor about it. If you have side effects, talk to your doctor about it. Do not do your own medicine. Do not become your own doctor. And for God's sake, Dr. Google is a nice fellow, but do not follow Dr. Google.
Okay.
I think this has to be the last question. You can't get a better one after this.
Yes, absolutely. It sums it all. Yeah. So here, what to say? We have taken up some questions, and there are volleys of questions coming, but it has to. You have summarized it all and have covered it. All 3 of you have so succinctly covered, and the way you have sort of addressed the concerns. So here it gets me to the element of giving a vote of thanks to formally. So I'm sure that participants, all of them who have attended, they have gained tremendously today. And it is a step towards garnering more awareness and coming out of the shell and express yourself. So, so first of all, I really extend our heartfelt gratitude on behalf of PTVS M.L.Dahanukar College of Commerce to all 3 of you, to Dr. Kirti Chawda, to Dr. Avinash D'Souza, to Ms. M.L.Dahanukar for accepting our invitation and sharing your insights with us. Dr. Kirti, we are grateful to you for taking your precious time, and so you're so caught up with so many errands that you're running, but still that you've given us time. And there are you've highlighted on the points that how circumstances that we are engulfed in, especially due to Corona, which has impinged upon our psyche, a lot of problematic stage that we are in. So thank you for making us aware of those symptoms which have increased, and also highlighting the need of taking help and kind of sending a destigmatizing message that we need to come out if required, definitely. And as you said, if you are really, if you're moving towards superpower, that step itself, going ahead and talking to people and seeking help, is a great step towards that. Thank you for this, and you're, it is nice to hear, and you've given some, being taking professional help is a kind of magic mantra that you've said. So thank you for that. I also sincerely thank Dr. Avinash D'Souza, who have you have inspired us with your valuable guidance. You've explored the aspects of relationship, especially the violence and dysfunctional relationship, and all those things that are that has come up because of the situation, COVID-19 situation, increasingly that has come. But you also have highlighted the positive sides of it. There are many positive news, people coming and sharing things when they are not getting. So these kinds of reports also you've got, and you've shared the balance of both and shown us some direction towards this. And we'll definitely visit. I guess you have an Instagram page and a Facebook page of D'Souza Foundation. We'll surely visit there and keep ourselves updated. Also, my gratitude and gratitude to Ms. M.L.Dahanukar who drives home the message of that human beings are good at adapting. The sense of adaptation it has, we are bestowed with supreme intelligence, and yet sometimes that gets us into a problem. But staying solution focused without being completely unmindful of problems would definitely get us to lead our lives in a more meaningful manner.
Perfect.
So,
perfect.
thank you so much. Thank you, all three of you. And my sincere gratitudes and regards to our parent organization, Parle Tilak Vidyalaya Association, for our support, for the support and patronage that they have always provided for such noble activities. I feel fortunate to be a recipient of constant guidance and unconditional support of our principal, respected Dr. Doke, who was available, for all kinds of. There are some glitches that come in the way of organizing such programs, but he has always been there. So thank you so much, sir. And our internal quality assurance cell of our college is one of the vibrant committees. And I extend my thankfulness to our vice principal and IQAC coordinator, Srimati Chandana Chakraborty, for her encouragement and unconditional support. She was there, supposed to be there, but she, in my place, which she actually does. I hope I'm doing justice to that. The way she does it is phenomenal for that. But she's got, again, caught up with some exigencies at the last moment. So thank you, madam. And I also take this opportunity to thank my colleague Shudhadam for taking painstaking efforts and unwavering support, and to Archana Talekar madam and Swapnil Shenvi, who have actually dealt with the technical part which made the webinar possible. All these days we've been seeing. Thank you so much, Swapnil and Archana madam. And obviously the person who had been student Sahil was there behind certain technical thing. So thank you, Sahil, too. This webinar could garner huge response from across the nation. So because of the direct and indirect support of my fellow colleagues at the college and the students, so I thank you, all of you, for your love and support. And most importantly, my dear participants who all of you have made this webinar a great success with your active participation. So many questions that just lined up. Thank you so much. We'll definitely see if we can somehow address this question. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your active participation. Thank you, one and all. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye. See you soon.
Cheers. Cheers.
I hereby declare now that the webinar comes to a conclusion, and the feedback link would be soon shared in the groups, various groups. Please fill it soon, and do not leave the group till we disband the group. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.